Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Marana Oro Valley Experience live stream podcast. We have a big one today. We've got a great guest that's from a big organization here in the area that's going to talk to us about some facts and some stuff that we probably need to hear and understand and get through. But we also want to talk about his path through leadership to the role that he has today. But before we do that, I do want to share some cool stuff. First one, I'm not wearing a hat this episode. This is the first time that this bald beauty has been on the air here. Okay, so we're celebrating that today. Another thing is there are some really cool places to get Christmas light experience without driving down to Winter Haven. You can do it from your car. Both places that I went to, you can sit in your car, have your kids in the back seat, grab some hot cocoa. We grabbed some pastries and some donuts on our adventure that we did through Marana and Oro Valley for the Christmas light experience. And I do want to give a shout out and a thank you to Christopher DeSimone for the Oro Valley light spots. But before we go to that, so this is the first spot we went to. This is Disney Lane. So if you're not familiar with Disney Lane, it is off of Old Father and Cortero. If you go down Plantation Street, just start heading down that and just work slowly down that road going west. You will see awesome setups like this one. This one is my favorite. It's Coco. It's one of my favorite Disney movies that's out right now. And then there's another really awesome spot in Disneyland. It's called Tamaron Court. That whole cul-de-sac all the way around is filled with awesome Disney characters and lights. And of course, there's the 101 Dalmatian setup where they actually do have 101 Dalmatians spread throughout the property that you can count if you want to give your children a challenge and have fun. The next ones I'm going to show you, these are the ones from Christopher DeSimone, and one came from one of his guests on the live chat. And it's in Oro Valley. It's by Painted Sky Elementary School. So what we learned, if you want to walk it, you can. We saw a ton of people walking through the area, and they were doing the experience with wagons and other means. So this one right here that Shay's going to bring up here next. All right, these are the streets. I can read some of it from East via Cerro del Molina. So these are all in the same area. If you just drive through nice and slow, you can experience some phenomenal Christmas lights. So I will say the density of the lights in this area were way more significant than the Disney Lane. Disney Lane's kind of spread out, but we did notice that they have added more displays, I would say, in the neighborhood. From the first time we went about a week and a half ago. We went through this weekend and they had added at least 4 more new displays, and we saw 2 more being built. One of them I didn't know what it was. So if you figure out what that one is, it's got a purple big LED display. I don't know any of the characters' names or anything. So if you figure that out, please feel free to share it with us, and we'll make sure that we put it out on the socials. So take time. If you're looking for something to do, you don't want to deal with all the traffic going into Tucson, you want to hang out in the area, have a good time. These neighborhoods right here are awesome. You're going to love it. It's a great Saturday night. We did everything. I think we did it all in an hour. Driving all the way out there, getting a snack, doing the drive-through, and then going back to Disney Lane. And it was just a great way to get out of the house on the weekend. So have fun doing that. Anyways, we're going to move into a lot cooler stuff. I love Christmas lights, but this stuff's a lot cooler because we were talking before the show. And I do want to bring on our guest, Brian Heithoff. I said it right. See,
you did.
I practiced.
Great.
Right. Brian is the CEO of TRICO.
Correct.
Right? And you're here with us today, and it's awesome. And I do want to share that we have met before through Impact Marana at the Marana Chamber of Commerce.
We have. Yeah, it's great to be here.
It is. What'd you think of that program?
That was an awesome program. Highly recommend it. Yeah, I recommend it to my team, anyone in the community who's interested in leadership or community involvement. Great program.
Ditto. I have recommended some people to go do it, and I thought it was one of the coolest things. Good job, Amanda and her team out there. Amanda Wiggins, the CEO and president of the chamber. Keep doing what you're doing. It's making a huge difference. I think that this, I think that spawned the relationship that we have, because we sat down during lunch and just started talking. 2 strangers had never met, but
I remember that. I remember
cool.
that conversation.
Yeah, it was great. So I want to talk about leadership first, right? Becoming the CEO of a big operation that you're involved with, there's so many things that have to happen beforehand, right? To get to the level where you're at, it's not easy. There's a lot of trials and tribulations, things you got to learn, steps you got to take. And I want to talk about how Brian got into the energy sector and is now the CEO of TRICO Cooperative.
Oh my, by accident.
By accident? We got to hear this. Come on.
I mean, yeah, that's a big question. So, my journey started, I grew up on a farm, which I do, appreciate and thank my parents for instilling a strong work ethic in me. And because when you live on a farm, and I grew up in Iowa, so we raised, hogs and, grew corn and soybeans. And so you had to get up, do chores before school and after school. And so that just becomes part of your daily routine. And you kind of learn, that those strong foundational items, I kind of look at, I attribute it, like every morning I get up and I check my email before I go into work. I'm sure a lot of people do that. I even do it on the weekends, but I equate that to doing my chores. I'm doing my chores, checking my emails, making sure that I'm not the bottleneck on anything. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so typical upbringing, I was involved in 4-H. I do attribute some of my success to 4-H. A lot of people think of 4-H as just raising cattle and hogs and showing them at the fair. But for the 4-H program, FFA2 does a great job of teaching like parliamentary procedure, leadership skills. You have your clubs so you can move into leadership roles, and I certainly did that. And so at the time, I don't know if I appreciated it, probably wasn't recognizing it. But as I look back now, I think, that set me up for some good skills going forward. So, but the reason I say I got into accident, I went to college and majored in accounting. I was decent in math and had some analytical skills, so that seemed like a natural for me. And then my first job out of college wasn't that great, was struggling, and but a job at a local electric cooperative in South Dakota opened up. I was familiar with the electric co-op industry, and because electric co-ops are in almost every county in the nation. My uncle was the assistant general manager for a co-op. My dad and mom were contract meter readers for the local electric co-op where I grew up. And so I applied for a supervisory role, which also in retrospect, I don't know that I was really qualified for it, but the CEO at that co-op saw something in me, took a chance on me, hired me, and then, now it's 35 years later, and here I am.
Wow. That's really cool. A lot of different steps.
Yeah, and I've worked at a number of different co-ops in different states. So I've worked in Iowa, Wyoming, Colorado, Nebraska, and now here in Arizona. So I came here about not quite 5 years ago.
It's amazing. I hear a lot of people talk about the energy sector in strange ways. And what I mean by that is, I'll have conversations with folks and they think that they're like these corporate behemoths that are taking people's money. That like the cost of energy is just an unreal thing, right? Like it's something they make huge profits on, and there's all this money, and there's this C-suite of people doing all these cool things, flying around in private jets. Like it's a really crazy look into the optics of the general public in regards to this. And when I say that, like I've talked to groups of people, I've literally talked to groups of people and asked them, hey, what do you think about the energy sector? What do you know about it? And right away, it's always like it turns into this kind of uncomfortable conflict that it's a, money-sucking business. And it's like, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, it's one of the most important services that exist, right? We're in these awesome technological times, and, and we have power and the reason I bring that up is I think that today is a great opportunity for us to talk about a couple things in regards to energy. First, we could start off with the clean energy projects that you guys have going on. But after that, we'll move into data centers and the power requirements behind that. But before we do that, I want to see if you can kind of create this connection with folks on the reality of energy. and the costs that are associated with it. And I know that your structure at TRICO as a cooperative is much different than the structure of another electric utility here, right? You notice I didn't say company, I said utility. Kind of give that information out, like help people understand what energy is, why it costs what it costs, and what goes into it, and how you guys are structured.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I'll start with the latter first and talk a little bit about TRICO. So we are a member-owned co-op, and so what that means is that we're customer-owned. We are not-for-profit, and our beginnings date back to the 1940s when, at the time, the rural areas around Tucson, including here in Marana, there was no electricity provider in the rural areas. And so after a number of years of trying, in the end, farmers and ranchers and some community members banded together and said, we're going to do this ourselves. So they formed their own company in 1945, and it was TRICO Electric Cooperative. We started here and built our first small generating station and substation in rural Marana, and connected, I think, about 100 members within a couple of years, and then gradually grew to Mount Lemmon and Three Points, the Ever Valley, of course, on the way down to Three Points, Sassabee, Arivaca, and just basically built around Tucson. And we were fortunate enough to get low interest loans from the government to help get us started, and in some respects we do still take advantage of some low interest or lower interest government programs today, but it's very grassroots in our approach. We are governed by our members, meaning I report to a board of directors at TRICO. TRICO has 7 directors. All of them are customers. All of them live in the area, and they're geographically dispersed throughout our service territory. And they come together once a month at a board meeting and provide me direction in the form of goals and vision and strategic direction and policies. And then my job is to structure the organization to carry out the board's wishes. And so it's a very grassroots-oriented organization. It's very service-oriented, so we're not for profit. We don't have a profit motive. We're focused on reliability and service. And so we do have upward pressure on rates, on costs. There's really upward pressure on costs, and then that translates into rate increases. We just had our first rate increase approved by the Arizona Corporations Commission since 2017, so about 9 years. We've been able to go without a rate adjustment in our base rates. And we're projecting with what we're seeing now as far as costs of materials, and that includes like transformers, wire, poles, even labor. It's just kind of across the board. We're more in a more inflationary period of time right now. It seems that we'll have our next rate increase probably in 2029. That's when we'll need it. That's what we're projecting anyway. That might slip a year. Or it could increase a year depending on what happens in the economy and in the world. But our best guess is 2029 for the next adjustment.
Yeah, and so from my understanding, you're regulated by the Arizona Corporation Commission, so they ultimately decide if the rate increase happens, and then but before that, you guys kind of have to build like a case. To make that happen, right? Like I think people need to understand that. In the background, you guys are putting together the information and data to support your case to go into the Arizona Corporation Commission and saying, hey, this is why we need that. And I might be wrong on this too. From what I was reading, it's possible you guys are like a little bit behind on some of the costs associated or the rate increases.
Yeah, it's usually in arrears. So what you're referring to is what we in our industry call as a cost of service study. So we look at all of our costs. We have to justify all of our costs, not only to the TRICO Board of Directors, but then also if the TRICO Board agrees that an adjustment is necessary, then we submit an application to the Arizona Corporations Commission. And here in Arizona, like you say, the electric co-ops are fully regulated just like the investor-owned utilities. Now, I make that mention just because in some states, the board of directors can make that decision of an electric co-op without going to the state regulatory body. Here in Arizona, it's an extra step. And some would argue that, well, as a self-governed organization, is that really necessary? But it is how we operate here. And so we went through what's considered a rate case. And like I said, it culminated here a month or so ago, and we'll adjust our rates as of January 1st. But yeah, very rigorous cost of service study. Many utilities contract that out just because of the specialty involved. We do some of that in-house, but we're utilizing consultants who have worked in the industry for years to help put all that together. And again, we have to justify any cost adjustments or increases that happened since the last rate case.
So that's great to cover, because some people think you guys wave a magic wand and decide what the cost is going to be. And I'm like, one of my objectives today as a member of Live the Dream Media and Marana Oro Valley Experience is to cover the reality of what happens before the increase.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And even now, let's just say that TRICO was a for-profit company. We would go through the same process. Mm-hmm. And in that case, sometimes people get concerned about the rate of return that utilities earn, which is, let's say, 9 to 10%. And the reason that's necessary, it may sound high, and in some regards, maybe it is. But the reason it's necessary is that we're a capital-intensive industry. We need investment. We need money in order to make infrastructure investments. And the people lending money to the utilities won't lend unless they know there is an adequate rate of return there. So it also allows the utilities to borrow at a lower cost if they have a higher rate of return. So in some respects, the higher rate of return you can earn, then the lower borrowing costs you can realize, which ultimately ends up saving your customers money. Now, and again, in TRICO's case, we don't have that high of a rate of return target. I mean, we do make a little money, and in the end, we turn around and we just give that back. We're more service-oriented. It is one of the beauties of the model. It's one of the reasons I like working in this industry because, again, we have the sole purpose of, or this more singular purpose of serving members reliable and affordable service.
And with everything that you have to do with that and how you obtain capital, you have still been able to invest in clean energy products. Or in projects here in Marana in particular. I stood on the ground of one of the projects, and it was a solar field. Can you get into that and how that came about?
Yeah, we're proud of our portfolio of generation, and it started actually in 2012 when TRICO was one of the very first co-ops. There are 900 co-ops in the country, or about 900. We were, I think, number 1 or 2 in the country to install a small solar array. And at the time, it was 227 kW, which at the time we thought it was large. Mm-hmm. It's adjacent to our headquarters on Tangerine Road here in Marana. But now it's minuscule. But we built that with some grants, and we were named the Solar Energy Cooperative of the Year back in 2012. Then in 2018, we built what you're referring to here in Marana, which is our Avion solar site. It's 10 megawatts of solar and 15 megawatt 2-hour battery, or batteries, Tesla Megapacks. We have by Saddlebrook, another 10 megawatt, 15 megawatt battery system. We also purchase from an organization in Benson, Arizona, and Wilcox is the location of the arrays. We are part of an Apache 1 and Apache 2. Those are both solar fields. We're continuing to invest in solar. We have a project east of Tucson that we'll be announcing next year. And also another one, hopefully, in here in Pinal County in 2026. So all told, when you add all that up, we're about 35% of our portfolio is solar, and another 5% or so is hydro. So it's close to 40% between solar or renewables is what I would say.
Wow.
So, and our boards has set a carbon reduction goal. That's helping influence our decisions as we make resource decisions. The goal was set 3 or 4 years ago, and it was to reduce our carbon emissions 50% by 2032 compared to a 2016 to 2018 baseline. We're well on our way. We'll exceed that. And at the same time, all of our solar generation is being invested in. We're also still investing in natural gas facilities also to firm up the solar resources. We're a growing cooperative, and we need more generation. It's just the nature of the business. It's kind of like in past cycles. In the 50s, air conditioners came about, and TRICO was building power plants.
Yeah.
And the military came to town in the 60s, and then ag irrigation came in the 70s. All those coincided with a time when some of our legacy power plants were built. And the same thing is happening here now, is there's a need for more generation resources. And so we're in a build cycle, so to speak.
Right. We're going to get into some of the energy needs and stuff coming up after the break. I would like to talk to you about data centers.
Okay.
The energy required for that. Kind of answer the question, are we in a crisis? Are we not? And also talk about strategic objectives for TRICO in the next 2 to 3 years.
Awesome.
All right. We'll be right back on the Marana Oro Valley Experience on the Live the Dream Media Network. This is David and Brian, and we will be right back.
Hey everybody, it's Chris.
Hey, it's David Samarano.
Hey guys, it's Clint Peak over here.
Hi, I'm Blair Lametti Mathias.
And I'm Summer Smeaton.
Hey, I'm Ron Arenas.
And I'm Will Pena.
Hey guys, I'm Mike Curry.
And I'm Mike Bader.
Hi there, I'm Bruce Ash.
Hi, Ed Wilkinson here.
Hi, this is Bob Elliott.
We are Live the Dream Media. Watch and listen to all of our shows Monday through Friday, only on the Live the Dream Media Network.
In Marana, community isn't just where we live, it's who we are. And at the heart of it all is the Marana Chamber of Commerce. We are building a thriving community through connected business leadership. We start the month bright and early with Marana Mornings, sparking real conversations and connections. We celebrate growing networks at our 4th Tuesday mixers hosted in exciting spaces. We unite visionaries and leaders at Impact Marana, driving meaningful progress together. We look ahead with Marana Insights, hearing directly from regional voices about what's next for our town. And we serve, through the passion of our board of directors and ambassadors, creating a culture of belonging through service and leadership. Because of our members, we're not just doing more, we're becoming more. Together, we're shaping the future of Marana. We are the Marana Chamber of Commerce.
And welcome back to the Marana Oro Valley Experience. I'm here with Brian Heithoff, CEO of TRICO Cooperative. During the quick little break we were talking about solar, and you expressed that you have a pretty fair amount of members that want to invest in solar, or?
Yeah. Well, in addition to TRICO investing in solar, we have a lot of our members. So about 12% of our residential membership base has installed their own solar in their yards or on their homes. And when you look at, again, the 900 electric co-ops in the country, that puts us in the top 5 as far as number of members or percentage of the residential class who have installed their own solar. And it kind of makes sense. We're here in Arizona. Yeah. So there's the sun shines most days, so people are taking advantage of it. But it is indicative of our membership base. Just they're interested in renewable energy. They're interested in the cooperative being sustainable. As part of our mission statement is to provide sustainable resources, and sustainability has an environmental component to it, of course, but also just reliable. We want to be reliable, and to that point, it takes a portfolio of generation, because solar is great, low fuel cost, no fuel cost during the day, but it doesn't operate all the time. and storage can fill a little bit of the gap. But then you still need other resources other times of the day. And so it's a portfolio approach that we've taken and that most utilities take when it comes to providing power.
It's awesome. That's the reliability. It's so dynamic, right? All these different ways for the energy to get to people.
Yeah,
it's
and
really
energy
cool.
efficiency programs fall into that too. TRICO's has energy efficiency programs. We're working on a low-interest financing program for our members now that we'll roll out next year. We're working on programs to essentially buy energy capacity from our members, expand those programs in 2026. And so, it kind of takes a village, so to speak. So we're partnering with our members to basically turn around and meet their needs also from a power capacity and energy perspective.
And then that's not all, Brian. You guys are moving into the internet world, huh?
We are.
What's going on with that? I've been seeing that you've been tracking member responses for people interested in fiber?
Yes, TRICO Fiber.
Let's get into this. We've got energy, but somebody said, hey, why don't we also offer internet? Like that seems like a great idea to me. I mean, you have this reliability standard for your energy. I think people in this area would truly love, me, myself included, reliability in the internet world and like a new standard. Because I feel, and I'm not going to knock the company, I just feel like it's really not delivering the way it should be, especially at key times. When there's a lot of people doing things, right? When that 7 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. when everybody's checking their email, when they're live streaming Live the Dream Media on their devices, right? They need to have that data available, and you guys are moving into that.
Well, we do think we can bring the cooperative values and our service levels to the internet business, but it didn't start with one day. Hey, let's do this.
Of course not.
That's not how it happened. It really has its roots in how to improve our electric service. So what
do you mean? What do you mean by that? So you're improving the electric service with your own network?
Yeah. Okay. So it goes back to a couple of studies we did a few years ago where we recognize that as the world is changing and as technology is developing, we need more communications with our field devices. And so when I say field devices, it means things like reclosers, switches, regulators, and substations, which we do have some communication today, but it's limited. And so in a modern grid where the expectations for reliability are increasing and the tolerance for blinks and voltage fluctuations are also decreasing, we need to have better communications with our devices to be able to monitor them, manage them, and even control them from our headquarters, our control center. And so that's how it all started. So then we embarked on this study to determine what the best communication mechanism was to communicate with all these line devices. And about the same time when we were having those discussions, we were approached by a potential partner that said, hey, if you're thinking of this, maybe there's a way to also offer internet service over that network. Anyway, we did feasibility studies. We spent 2 years studying all kinds of technologies, kind of settled in on fiber relatively early into that process, recognizing the superiority for low latency and bandwidth. And so the plan always is we have 15 distribution substations scattered throughout our service territory. We wanted to connect our 2 facilities, our headquarters and our service center down in Green Valley, and all of those 15 substations with what we're now calling our smart grid backbone. And then as we got into this study, we recognized that, yes, we in fact could offer internet. And instead of a partner, we can do it ourselves. We think we can build the systems, the processes, the structure, and instill our culture into our organization to be able to offer this like service, an essential service, really, to our members, just like we've been offering electric service for 80 years. So, we announced this summer that is, in fact, what we're doing. We have started construction on the smart grid fiber backbone. That'll be completed late summer of 2026. And then we have this, what we're calling a member-driven approach. That's what we call it internally, to determine interest levels to decide if and where we're going to build fiber to the home, which is a superior technology to some of the legacy systems, to be able to offer affordable, fast, and reliable internet to our members and non-members. We're willing to go be outside of our membership as well. But,
That's my next question.
But the priority, at least in the beginning, is to our members, because we do have a lot of members interested in the service. We've done a number of surveys. I mean, this is a big decision, and it's a big investment.
Right.
And therefore, we wanted to be sure that there was enough interest by the members to take the risk out of it. And so, through surveys, through focus groups, now through a pre-subscription process, we're getting to the point where we're about ready to embark on the next phase, which is TRICO fiber internet service.
That's incredible. That is so incredible.
So,
yeah, you hit the keyword bandwidth.
yes.
Man, that's a struggle. We were doing testing here when we were building the broadcast element.
It's hard to compare.
Yeah.
One thing we've noticed already is that, our we'll have a 1 gig plan, and it's symmetrical. So same speed, up and down. It'll be dedicated service, not shared service.
1 gig up and down, symmetrical.
Symmetrical.
And that'll be for households.
That'll be households. And, there's more to the story, David. I mean, we'll have a 2 gig and an 8 gig plan for households.
Can I sign up?
You can. Yeah, you should pre-subscribe. I'll give you the form before we're done here.
All right.
So, but the reason I mention all this is because, there's a lot of, I don't know how would you describe it? There's just some misinformation about speeds. There's a lot of up to plans that really don't get to the speeds that are advertised. There's incentive programs that, eclipse after a year or two. And so we're trying to bring what we think is a more straightforward approach to offering internet. That's our intentions anyway.
Keeping it simple. I love it.
And straightforward.
And in-house, right?
And
I
in-house.
like that you said the thing about no partners or anything like that, because I had put out a post a couple of weeks ago, and I was really thinking about partnerships and the word partner these days and how loosely it's just used, and you know what I mean? It's like, just keep what you can in-house. We have a saying here, let's just do it on our own. We'll figure it out.
Well, we have our culture's unique in that it's can-do culture, kind of a high agency culture, but also it goes back to our nonprofit status. And one of the concerns we honestly had is, if we partnered with a for-profit company, is that going to create cultural challenges for us? Yeah. And in the end, we decided, it might. It wasn't worth that risk.
Right.
And therefore, we do have some, partners in our national organizations that are helping us. We will utilize contractors as we build the system. But as far as the financial risk, it's on TRICO, and therefore the pre-subscription process is designed to reduce the risk, because before we move into an area or a neighborhood to build, we know that there's going to be a certain percentage of people signing up before we even invest that first dollar in that neighborhood. So that it's a risk management tool for us.
Yeah. It's a great one.
Yeah, it works for us.
Yeah. Get some money flowing, just a bunch of data.
Now, what it
Know what's
means
going on.
is we might not build everywhere.
Right.
If a neighborhood wants us to go there, hey, that's great. That means that the neighborhood has attained its minimum threshold for what we've determined to be a sustainable operation in that neighborhood.
Right.
And if not, well, that's fine too. And that's a way of protecting the members' money, if you think about it, because if we just said we're going to go to all members, there may be some neighborhoods that there's not a lot of interest, but we've now spent, $1 million or $2 million in infrastructure. So this is a way to ensure that our members' money is being used wisely.
Yeah.
And it will be operated on a cooperative basis. It'll be so it's really a non-profit internet provider. Is the way it's structured.
Wow. First one around here. Or is there another nonprofit?
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not aware of any.
Because right now we're using Starlink, and that is not.
Yeah, I use Starlink at my house.
Yeah, we had to. We were just forced into it.
I'm surprised you're a Starlink here.
We had to. I'm not gonna say the other company, but I mean, they just could not deliver the baseline of what we needed to keep a steady stream to our broadcast elements. And we don't have a lot, but for whatever reason, it just wouldn't do it. And we had, 10 different technicians come out here. We've had all kinds of installs of new hardware and everything. But I really do truly think that there's and this is just my opinion. I'm not as educated as I could be on it, right? I think there's actually just a decaying problem with the fiber in the ground that's around here, or something's going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's an asset that they're, you want to generate a profit off of it. Mm-hmm. I mean, they have investors.
Yeah.
We all have somebody we answer to. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. But we keep a backup, right? So we have Starlink, and then we have the other stuff. We keep a backup, so we have redundancy in the network. So if one goes down, we can switch. And if we actually have a third network too that we don't deploy until there's an emergency, and we can deploy it from a vehicle, right, anywhere. So we keep that redundancy plan in case something happens, right? The power goes out or whatever else. We can still transmit. If somebody reached out to us and said, "Hey, there's an emergency, we need to use your new way of doing things," there's still radio and everything, but we want to be able to make that happen if we need to. Or if there's a big incident and a local law enforcement or public service agency needs something, we can roll out there on the fly and deploy internet service for whatever they're doing. So we keep that in mind with it.
Yeah. Well, TRICO, we have redundant service at our headquarters too. You need it.
You have to. You do. All right, let's talk about the hot topic, right? Let's jump into this, Brian. We've been talking about misinformation and a lot of things. And as a host and somebody that lives in the area, and I've grown up here, I felt called and compelled to talk about this stuff with you today, Brian, just because I see the misinformation. I was just on a phone call this morning with someone expressing their concerns with the way that information is being put out, how it's being sold. And, I'm not going to say who or what, but, I just think that we all need to do a better job at talking about the reality of this and stop focusing on what is going to get clicks. And this isn't something that we should be toying with, especially with the point of how things are going here in this region economically. I think that it's important that we do start moving in a direction where our kids and our families are going to be able to have jobs, and there's going to be sustainable ways for them to get incomes and help serve. And if we continue to put pressure back on these opportunities without understanding what it takes and the demands that are part of it, I think we're going to keep setting ourselves back, and it's going to be in a way of ignorance. And it's not, and it's like, let's be enlightened, let's understand and know. And I'm going to be honest with you, Brian, it's taken me several hours to listen and read and understand, right? I just told you I was reading about your notes from your presentation at the city council or the town council here at Marana. Like I found myself having to make 10 extra steps to really understand what is going on behind the scenes and what is the truth about these data centers.
Yeah, it's complicated.
It is. And I just feel like it's just been put in one box, right? I feel like the world today likes to just classify everything in one thing, say, hey, this is how this is going to be sold to everybody, right? It's just a close. That's what you're going to get. And you have a few people that really dig into the information and what's going on. And I'm like, this is a perfect opportunity. We've got Brian, the CEO of TRICO, who's heavily involved in everything going on in the community. And you're going to be able to walk us through a form of understanding with these data centers and the energy that's going to take to accommodate them. So in regards to the data centers, my first question is, when you did your rate case for the Arizona Corporation Commission for this one coming up, was data center needs part of that rate case?
No.
Why?
Because there's nothing certain. We need to, if we're going to put extra resources into our rate case application, it needs to be a certainty, and it's not. So,
so that was going to happen, the rate increase was going to happen with or without the data centers?
Absolutely.
Because what I have read...
Unfortunately. That's the reality. And as I mentioned earlier, we're projecting our next rate adjustment is 2029. That's without a data center.
Okay.
Because the costs are continuing to go up. So probably, 3 to 4 years from now.
So even without a data center, rates will have to increase.
Correct.
It's just the way it is, right? So I wanted to cover that because I've read several news articles that haven't relayed that information, that everything that has led up to the rate increases at this time has nothing to do with the data centers coming.
That is correct.
Yeah, that's past. It's in the mirror, rearview mirror, right? Okay, cool. Second question is, what do you know about the power demand or projections for a facility in Marana or wherever else? Is there like a standard size? What is the average power demand for one of these?
Yeah, so they vary a little bit. The new, and these are, I guess you consider AI data centers compared to your normal file retrieval type data centers, your cloud-based data centers of the last 10 plus years. So, in a historic or legacy data center, you're just pulling information that's being stored in the data center. In the new style, with AI, it's kind of like a manufacturing plant because the systems are actually creating the content for you. So there's more compute, more energy required in order to actually generate content as opposed to just retrieve or send you stored data. But yeah, the power requirements are significant, and I think it's an indication of the way the world's moving anyway, not just in the IT world, but also in manufacturing. So if you think about the manufacturing and advanced manufacturing, onshoring, reshoring, there's continues to be more robotics being built into the manufacturing process.
I'm glad you brought that up.
That's going to continue.
I'm glad you brought that up because out of all the conversations that happen about these AI data centers, everybody has just completely forgot about the textile industry and the power demands and needs of those. Like they just that got thrown on the wayside, and we're completely focused just on the AI.
Yeah,
and it's really interesting.
Well, if you think of more, of an automated world with robots, and I'm not making a judgment if that's good or bad. It's just that appears to be the trend where, we have labor challenges here in the United States. We have an aging population, an aging workforce, and the cost of technology, i.e. robotics, is an economical decision. It can be incorporated into your manufacturing facilities and you can get a rate of return on that investment compared to other options. It's just that's the way things are going. And so the world of economic development, the way I look at it anyway, it's shifting. For generations, and myself personally, TRICO, the co-ops I've been working for, we've always been active in economic development because that's how we grow. And growth is generally good for our business, and because it allows us to spread more sales, it allows us to spread the revenue over more of the fixed costs. And therefore, it has a dampening effect on the need for rate adjustments. Help keeps our costs in check. But for decades, the community measured success on how many jobs are being generated by this plant or this project. That's, if you think of advanced manufacturing, you think of data centers, even if you think of solar storage facilities in other states, wind farms, those are highly capital intensive. There's some job growth, but maybe not as much as what we've been used to. But the measurement of success is shifting from job growth to tax generation. And the nice thing about business growth, commercial growth for a community anyway, is that there's really not a lot of infrastructure needs or burdens that, say, a residential neighborhood would have. So, again, I guess what I'm trying to say is that the economic development is changing. These projects generate huge amounts of tax revenue for the various jurisdictions, and really that's probably going to result in either increased infrastructure for us as people, parks, probably roads, or maybe even relief from a property tax perspective, or at least keeping them level. Right. That'd be my guess.
Yeah. And so the power demands, the question, there's a fear agenda being pushed, and I want to clear that up a little bit as much as we can. Is there a crisis with the energy that's involved in these that, would be so substantial that TRICO wouldn't be able to handle it, where you'd be in a position where people need to be worried about energy to their home?
I would describe it as, there's certainly a challenge, but it is not a crisis. But it's not unlike what we've been through in previous decades. Again, you think back to air conditioning, you think back to ag irrigation, and some of these periods in our history where there's been a need to build more infrastructure to serve new technology. I look at it the same. Here's a new technology that requires more electric needs. And so TRICO's in the infrastructure business. We build infrastructure to provide a service to our members. And therefore, we are making plans on how to meet those needs. So back to your earlier question, we do understand the power needs of the facility here in Marana. We understand some of their projections for growth. We've been working with them and are identifying, creating designs and or proposals on how to serve that.
Yeah. And I read something, and I can be off on this. An article quoted you. No, actually, it was just the minutes or whatever it was. You were saying that, I don't know if I'm not going to use the word guarantee, but there was a plan in place that there wouldn't be any increased cost on the TRICO members during the first couple of years of the data center.
Yeah, I'm really proud of our board, and because they got ahead of this issue over a year ago. The discussions started happening. It's kind of like the Marana Town Council, if you're familiar with that issue. The town passed an ordinance approximately a year ago to get ahead of this very issue, and the TRICO board did the same thing. That set forth guiding principles for how staff would negotiate with data centers, what the expectations for data centers would be, and also developed a pretty rigorous intake process that is intended to be consistent for each potential project in order to ensure fairness. And so that was put in place in early 2025, and we've been working under those arrangements ever since. One of the key provisions there is that from an infrastructure standpoint, from a transmission, high voltage transmission and distribution perspective, that the prospects are going to pay up front or provide security for those investments. So whatever that number is, let's just say it's several million, there's going to be money provided to TRICO before we order that equipment. That's part of the process. And really, that's the way that industry's shifting. I think the data centers here and elsewhere, that's now the the tactic, or that's the approach taken by most utilities, at least that I'm aware of. That's the new standard. So they're prepared to pay for that upfront or provide security. And so then there's also the issue of the generation resources. And so there's a combination of different resources that can be used to provide service to a data center. If those resources are more expensive than our currently embedded cost of generation that we provide our existing membership, then the data center will pay that incremental cost. So it's a direct assignment of costs. And the net result of that is that we protect our membership. That's been our number one priority, is we want to protect our membership to ensure that there's no degradation of reliability, which we won't. And that comes into the engineering, the design of these systems. And so they're being designed so that there's no impact on reliability. And also there's no impact on their electric rates. Now, that all said, there is a potential upside because we will be selling energy to them, and there is some potential revenue opportunity or growth associated with them. And so our projections show that 2029-ish rate adjustment that we'll need will be pushed out 3 to 4 more years into the future. So not a 4-year time horizon, but let's say a 7 or 8 year time horizon until the next adjustment is needed. That's with one data center. If there are a couple data centers, or if there's growth in the existing data center that's being proposed, then that gets close to 10 years without a rate adjustment needed. So that's keeping money in our members' pockets because of the cost increases are essentially being covered by the data center revenue.
And then if we don't have them, the increases will have to happen because TRICO will be building the new generation pieces.
Correct.
So I feel like I could confidently say, this is me, don't go after Brian for this. You can rest easy on the demands of the power and the resources available for this kind of project.
At least here.
That's here in Marana, right? You said something, right? You guys were a whole year, if not more, ahead of this thing, along with the town council here was a year plus ahead of it, making sure, hey, how do we protect our people? How do we protect the environment? How do we make sure it's efficient? Like all these different steps went into play. None of that has been mentioned other than right here at this table, Brian, on any of the news elements here in town.
I think there are utilities in other states, and for some of the earlier data centers, and just to give you an example, in Virginia is a hotbed for AI data center growth.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
And when that growth started happening a few years ago, what I just described to you wasn't the approach of the local utilities there. And in some respects, it was reflective of the wholesale market in that area. They have a centralized capacity market in the east. We do not have a centralized capacity market here in the west. So it's different operating environments. But again, there were some rate adjustments that evidently were directly a result of some data center growth in that area. And that has now been, assumed to be the case here. And in reality, that is not going to be what happens here.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's always good to study on the prototype, right? Like, how's this going to work and learn from it? And it sounds like a lot of steps have been taken to learn from it and study it. And, I want to thank you so much for coming on today.
You bet.
And talking about this, because I really felt, like I said, compelled to ease some things and to travel into this lightly and to listen to everything, because you don't want to be, it's also out of compassion. Like, I want people to live here and understand that it's going to be okay. That, we do have really awesome, you're bored. You said it. right?
TRICO has a great board.
It's an amazing board.
Very
I know
astute.
some of the people that are on there. They're incredible people, just out in general, right? Just out in the public in general. And then the council itself here is very, very good at looking and analyzing what's happening and what we're doing. I feel like a lot of people trust in that, and I feel I want to push people to trust the processes here in Marana, especially with what's coming. And if you see Brian out and about, thank him for being on the show with us today. It was huge. I probably will ask to bring you on again as we move.
Happy to.
Because I know it's not going to happen overnight, right? There's going to be some different things happening, and there's always we can say how we want to picture things going down, but there might be some bumps in the road and whatever. And I want to be able to reach out to you and say, hey, can you help with educating folks on this and using us as a resource to do that? And I want to let you and everybody at TRICO know that we are a resource to help with getting information out there. It's our calling. It's what we do. It's our community impact initiative. So if you guys ever want to come on here or do something with us, just let us know.
Yeah. I mean, you provide a great service to the community. I'm happy to come back anytime.
Is there anything on the table you want to talk about that maybe we left out? That hour went quick. I mean,
It did.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised.
10:06. So thankfully the next show's not till 10:30, so we're allowed to push it a little bit. But yeah, it was great. You got anything else?
No, I mean, I maybe as a wrap up, TRICO, we're service oriented. We feel we try hard. We think we offer a good service to our members, a good value, but we're always working to improve it. We want to offer great service in the future. Mm-hmm. So we're focused, a number of our initiatives are, introducing options, introducing new programs, new services, but also a lot of what people don't see is we're doing a ton of work on process improvement internally, system work, process work. And so that's continues to be an emphasis, and it's even going to be more so in 2026. And we talked a little bit about AI from a load perspective, from a data center perspective, but utilizing AI tools in our operation is a whole topic in and of itself. And there's a lot of opportunity, I feel, for us to be able to increase our value we provide by incorporating AI and AI agents into our internal processes. So,
well, that sounds like another episode here after we get through some mud with this thing. And, I do want to leave on this note. I want you to ask more questions about this stuff, and if there's something that maybe I missed on this show that one of our hosts can answer at a later time or ask at a later time to somebody involved. But I want you to ask yourself, if the data centers come, what does that mean to you as a community member, right? And I asked myself that, being a new father, right? I got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and I think that most people get older hoping that their children can grow in the community and have a place to grow around them, to have the opportunity of jobs and careers and, blossom. And, with what Brian has said about how economic development has changed and how the tax revenue could be used to make things great for everybody around, parks, all kinds of other amenities, venues, you name it. When an opportunity for something to get built comes, ask why there is so much going against it, and really look into the reasons for that. And ask yourself, do you want to see your kids have somewhere to grow? If something like this comes, it is the breaking of a barrier for this region. If there is data and resources like this available, responsibly and sustainably ran, big places are going to come here, and there are going to be jobs available for folks. During our conversation, we talked about how the world is moving into more automation, right? And understanding and knowing that automation is very important. This is a moment in this region's history I hope we look back on and say we made the right decision with the knowledge we had. And I hope that there are immense opportunities for my children and your children when they get older to have great careers and to stay here close to us. And that's all I got for you. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you next week, or Clint will see you next week. And happy